When weakness becomes power. Imagine losing your job because of a joke you made 10 years ago. In many Western countries today, this actually happens. The most powerful sentence is no longer, "I will hurt you." It is, "You hurt me." Today we are talking about a book called The Rise of Victimhood Culture. The authors are two sociologists, Bradley Campbell and Jason Manning. They noticed a strange trend in American society. The weaker you appear, the more power you seem to have. In other words, weakness has become a new kind of strength. Whoever proves they are the biggest victim gets to call the shots. How did this happen, and what does it mean? Let's break it down step by step. First, imagine someone insults you in a truly cruel way. How would you react? The authors say your answer depends on your moral culture. There are three main cultures for dealing with offense. The first one is called honor culture. In honor culture, your worth depends on how others see you. So people are extremely sensitive to any insult, however small. If you offend them, they might challenge you to a fight. Calling the police would make you look like a coward. A real man, they believe, settles his own scores. Here is a famous example from American history. In 1804, Vice President Aaron Burr challenged Alexander Hamilton to a duel. Hamilton had privately said something negative about Burr. Hamilton actually opposed dueling, but refusing would destroy his reputation. So he accepted the duel and was shot dead. To modern eyes, this seems like a completely senseless death. That's because most of us follow a second culture, dignity culture. In dignity culture, your worth comes from inside, not from others' opinions. Every person has value, no matter what anyone says. So insults don't really matter that much. There is a famous English saying about this. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. In dignity culture, having thick skin is a virtue. If someone insults you, you shrug and walk away. You only go to the police for serious harm, like theft or violence. This has been the mainstream Western value for over 2 centuries. But recently, a third culture has appeared, mainly on university campuses. The authors call it victimhood culture. Here is a real story from Emory University in 2016. One night, someone wrote pro-Trump slogans in chalk on the sidewalk. Just a few words, written in chalk. Some students completely fell apart. They stormed the administration building, crying and shouting. They told the president, "We are in pain. We feel unsafe on this campus." They demanded the school find and punish whoever wrote the words. Notice how strange this combination is. Like honor culture, they are extremely sensitive to any offense. But like dignity culture, they don't fight back themselves. Instead, they appeal to authority, schools, companies, or the internet crowd. And they never hide their pain. They advertise it, amplify it, and make sure everyone knows. You might think these are just spoiled kids throwing tantrums. The authors warn us not to underestimate them. Victimhood culture comes with a complete set of powerful weapons. Let's see how these weapons work. The starting point is a concept called microaggression. You might think it means a small, minor insult. But the definition is much stranger than that. A microaggression is defined entirely by the listener's feelings. The speaker's intention does not matter at all. Here is a classic example from psychologist Daryl Wing Su. He was on a flight with an African American colleague. A flight attendant asked them to change seats to balance the plane's weight. Professor Su immediately felt offended. He believed she should have asked a white couple instead. The attendant explained she had no racist intention at all. Sue even admitted the reason was completely reasonable. But none of that mattered, because he felt hurt. So, by definition, it was a microaggression. This gives the listener total power to define the crime. You can never prove you didn't offend someone. And the list of forbidden phrases keeps growing. The University of California once listed 52 statements as microaggressions. For example, you can't say, "America is a melting pot." You can't say, "The most qualified person should get the job." Even asking an Asian person, "Where are you from?" counts as a microaggression. The book records a funny scene at a microaggression seminar. During the Q&A, the moderator asked an audience member, "Where are you from?" The whole room burst out laughing. He had just committed the exact microaggression the panel was condemning. Even basic small talk has become a minefield. That's step 1, seize the power to define offense. Step 2 is turning small things into big crimes. Supporters say one incident alone means nothing. But add up thousands of tiny offenses, and you get structural oppression. One college even built a website to collect and record every microaggression. The goal was to prove a pattern of systematic unfairness. Pile up enough sesame seeds, and they become a watermelon. Step 3 is appealing to third parties. People in victimhood culture never solve conflicts privately. They report everything to a powerful authority. At Dartmouth College, some students were mocked with fake Chinese accents. Instead of confronting the mockers, they reported them to a school office. A private argument instantly became a public trial. Finally, step 4, make the language bigger and bigger. Scholars call this concept creep. Heavy words like abuse, trauma, and violence keep expanding their meaning. Trauma used to mean damage from war or terrible disasters. Now even sadness after a breakup can be called trauma. Violence used to mean physical attacks on the body. Now an uncomfortable poster or remark can be called violence. This leads to a famous campus slogan, "Speech is violence." One sentence now equals a punch in the face. Besides these attacking weapons, victimhood culture also has defensive tools. They are called trigger warnings and safe spaces. Trigger warnings were originally a serious medical idea. They protected war veterans with PTSD from scenes of gunfire. Today, healthy college students use them to avoid opinions they dislike. One professor was asked to add a trigger warning to The Great Gatsby. Students said the novel contained attitudes that might upset them. And safe spaces might be even more surprising. At Brown University, a conservative speaker came to debate on campus. Some students felt this was a psychological attack. So the school prepared a special safe room for them. Inside were coloring books, Play-Doh, bubbles, and videos of puppies. Adult university students hid there instead of joining the debate. Now, what happens if you question this culture? The answer is, you get destroyed. At Yale, a professor sent a gentle email about Halloween costumes. She simply suggested students should be more tolerant and relaxed. Angry crowds surrounded her home, screaming at her and her husband. They said, "You have violated our safe space." In the end, the couple resigned under enormous pressure. At Evergreen State College, activists asked all white people to leave campus for a day. Professor Brett Weinstein politely refused, calling the plan itself discrimination. Students then chased him around campus until he had to resign. These professors never touched anyone or committed any real violence. Their crime was simply questioning the logic of victimhood culture. The authors say this is the most dangerous thing you can do. So where did this culture come from? You might guess it started among the truly oppressed poor. The reality is exactly the opposite. It was born in America's richest, safest, most equal elite universities. As the authors put it, this weapon was forged in paradise, not hell. Why? Sociologists offer a few reasons. First, in an extremely equal environment, tiny differences look huge. In a perfectly clean room, one grain of sand causes panic. Second, elite universities have huge administrative systems. One college has one administrator for every 6 students. Reporting a conflict is as easy as filling out a form. Third, social media makes gathering supporters almost free. One screenshot can mobilize thousands of strangers to back you up. Finally, many elite students were raised by helicopter parents. These parents hovered over their children and solved every little problem. Their schools removed competitive games and gave everyone a trophy. So these kids learned 2 habits: be sensitive, and call an adult. At university, helicopter parents simply hand the baton to helicopter administrators. This creates a deep reversal of power. In older cultures, showing weakness was shameful. Everyone wanted to prove they were strong. But now, saying "I'm hurt" wins sympathy, supporters, and the moral high ground. The more miserable you are, the more authority you have. And when victimhood becomes valuable, some people start faking it. In 2004, a professor reported that her car was covered with hate symbols. The whole school boycotted classes to support her. Police later discovered she had staged the whole thing herself. In the famous Duke lacrosse case, players were falsely accused of a terrible crime. 88 professors publicly condemned them before any evidence appeared. A careful investigation later proved the accusation was completely fabricated. Sociologists call this kind of overreaction a moral panic. During a moral panic, asking for evidence becomes dangerous. People will ask you, "Why are you defending the monster?" To be clear, the authors say most real victims are genuine. Their warning is about the system, not the victims. When a culture rewards victimhood too much, it invites fabrication. So can this game continue forever? The authors predict 2 forms of blowback. First, the other side learns to play the same game. The political right has developed its own victimhood story. After the 2016 election, some conservative students demanded safe spaces too. They said supporting Trump made them feel unsafe on liberal campuses. The weapon has been stolen, it now fires in both directions. Second, the movement starts attacking its own members. The book calls this a purity spiral. Since more victim identities mean more status, competition becomes an arms race. At a pride parade in Chicago, Jewish marchers were expelled by the organizers. Their flag supposedly made other marginalized participants feel unsafe. Below every victim, you can always find a purer victim. As long as you have slightly more privilege, you become the oppressor. The authors believe this movement will eventually burn itself out. So what should we take away from this book? Victimhood culture is full of paradoxes. It claims to protect the weak, yet it creates a fierce new power. It was born in paradise, yet it makes people feel fragile as glass. It teaches a generation to sharpen fragility into a blade, not to grow stronger. But a society that weaponizes fragility may not end well. Real strength, perhaps, is still the old-fashioned kind. The ability to hear an insult, shrug, and simply walk away. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next video.
接下来，我们来复习这部影片的重点单字与片语，每个单字会重复念几次，请跟着一起念。
Victimhood. 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 When victimhood becomes valuable, some people start faking it. Victimhood. Victimhood. Call the shots. Call the shots. Call the shots. Whoever proves they are the biggest victim gets to call the shots. Call the shots. Call the shots. Feel offended. Feel offended. Feel offended. Professor Sue immediately felt offended by the flight attendant's request. Feel offended. Feel offended. Appeal to. Appeal to. Appeal to. Instead of fighting back, they appeal to authority, like schools or companies. Appeal to. Appeal to. The moral high ground. The moral high ground. The moral high ground. Saying, I'm hurt, wins sympathy, supporters, and the moral high ground. The moral high ground. The moral high ground. Fabricate. 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 A careful investigation proved the accusation was completely fabricated. Fabricate. Fabricate. Throw a tantrum. Throw a tantrum. Throw a tantrum. You might think these are just spoiled kids throwing tantrums. Throw a tantrum. Throw a tantrum.